to Writing Level 2, Lesson 7. Today we're going to talk about the simple past verb tense. Do you know when to use the simple past tense? The first time that we use the simple past tense is for activities and situations that began and ended in the past. If the situation or the activity is still happening now, you cannot use simple past tense. Here is an example. I went to school yesterday. We use the past tense of go, which is went, because yesterday is finished. Another time that we use simple past is for a past habit or state. For example, I played the piano when I was young. This means that I don't necessarily play the piano now. It's a past habit. It's finished. Here are some common time words for simple past. You'll notice in the first column over here that last is a very common word for this. For example, we say last week, last month, last year, and last night. If you look in the middle column, here is another word that is common, yesterday. And you can see the different ways that we would use yesterday. We could say yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning, yesterday evening. Also, there are another way, and that's using the word ago. Ago is a time word for past. For example, 3 weeks ago, 2 days ago, a week and a half ago. In addition to these time words, we can also use prepositions to introduce a time in the past. For example, in 1987, well, 1987 is in the past, so we would use simple past tense, or on May 3rd, 2010. This is also in the past. Now, we're going to first talk about the be verb in the past tense. When we use the be verb in past, we use was for I, he, she, and it. For example, look at the sentence. The man was unhappy last night. The man is the same thing as he. When the subject is you, we, or they, we use were. For example, the students were at school yesterday. Now, how do you write the be verb in the negative? It's really easy. Just add the word not after the be verb. For example, the book was not in my room yesterday. Or, the students were not late to class 2 days ago. Now, we're going to talk about how to write questions. First, yes-no questions. Remember, when you write a yes-no question, the easiest way to do this is first, write the sentence. Then, change the sentence to negative. For example, in the past one, we said the book was in my room yesterday. And here, we've changed it to was not in my room yesterday. Then, when you change that to a yes-no question, you just take the first verb, that's was, and move it to the beginning of the question. Was the book in your room yesterday? And of course, when we answer, we use that verb again. Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Now, read these sentences and study them. Here, you'll notice, in the negative, we have were not. Take the were, add it to the beginning of the question, and to answer, use were again in the answers. Now, to make this question into a WH question, these are also called information questions. And information question words are things like what, when, why, where. All that we have to do is add one of the question words in front of the be verb. But of course, you have to take out the answer. For example, were they at a party yesterday? We can add the word where were they, but we have to take out at a party because that's actually the answer to where were they yesterday. Now, spelling of regular past verbs, these are the verbs that we add ed to when we're talking about the past tense. We have a number of different rules. Most of these regular verbs, you just add ed, like work, worked, visit, visited. But if the verb ends in an e or an ie, you just add d. For example, hope, do you see the e there? That becomes hoped. Die, see the e? Just add the d, died. Now, for a verb that ends in one vowel and one consonant, but we're not talking about W and Y here, you double the consonant and add ed. For example, shop, S-H-O-P. O is the vowel, P is the consonant. So, you double the P and you add ed. Look at the other examples here. Next, we have verbs that end in consonant plus Y. We change the Y to an I and add ed. For example, hurried. Hurried, you can see, ends in a consonant and a Y. So we change the Y to an I and add ed. But if before the Y there is a vowel, like the word play, A is a vowel, Y, then you have to add ed. You don't change the Y to an I. All right, now this is part of your homework. Which rule does each of these verbs follow? Here are the rules from the previous page, and you need to choose the rule about how to write the simple past. We'll check this in class tomorrow. Oh, actually, there are the answers. Sorry about that. We need to talk about regular simple past pronunciation. If the word ends in a voiced sound, you say, teacher, what's a voiced sound? Take your hand and put your hand right here and say the verb pick. All right? Oh, sorry, this is voiceless. Say the word pick. Here, you don't feel a vibration. Say pick. You don't feel anything right here because of the K sound. That means that when you pronounce it, the ed, you pronounce it as a T. For example, watched. Watch. Say watch. Watch. No vibration. So ed sounds like a T. Or look. Look. No vibration. So we say looked. Now, the next one is voiced. Do the same thing again with your hand and say the verb live. The V sound is voiced and it makes your throat vibrate. Here, we say the ED as a D. So we say live, lived. Or try, tried. Now the last category is if the verb ends in a T or a D. For example, here we have wanted. Want ends in a T, so you have to say ed. Want ed, or wanted. Or also the verb hate, we say hated. Now, we also have what we call irregular verbs. These are the verbs that you have to memorize the past tense, because the past tense can be very different from the simple form or the base form. They don't have ed in the simple past. For example, we can say do becomes did, go, went, but sometimes the word even stays the same in the simple past. Cut, cut, let, let. Now, with bought, with buy, the simple past is actually bought. And with come, the simple past is came. Now, same word, put, put. And set, set. We're going to talk a little bit about the patterns in irregular verbs. These are some of the ways you can try to remember the spelling of an irregular verb. Sometimes the middle vowel changes. For example, get becomes got, sit becomes sat. Here in get we have an E, it changes to an O. In sit we have an I, it changes to an A in the past. Sometimes we remove one vowel. Choose has two O's. But we take one of the O's out and we get chose. The same thing with shoot and shot. Another one is where we take the D at the end and we change it to a T. Like bend, bent, lend, lent. Or sometimes we remove a vowel and we add a final T. Like sweep, we take out one of the E's and add a T at the end and it becomes swept. Sometimes we change a vowel and add a different final sound with ut. So bring, you change the vowel O you change the vowel I to an O and you add UGHT. We pronounce it bought. Buy, this one's brought, this one is bought, and this one is taught. Sometimes, like I said before, we don't change anything. Now, the good thing about past verbs, we're not talking about the past be verb though, is that you use the same verb for any subject. So we can say she moved, we moved. They're the same verb. You don't have to think what is the right one for he, she, or it. If you want to add a negative to verbs other than the be verb though, you have to add did, then not, and then the verb has to become the base verb. For example, they didn't sleep well last night. You add did, the not, and then the base form of sleep. Here, his son didn't finish. Did plus not plus the base form of finish. Here is how we do yes-no questions. The same way that we do yes-no questions in simple present, but instead of saying do or does for simple present, we say did. Now, here are how we can change a sentence to a WH question. Remember, that's the information question. So, here's our sentence. Anne made special food for her family last night. We changed that to negative. Anne didn't make special food. Then, we have to take the first verb, that's did, and we put it at the beginning, and it turns it into a question. Then, if we want to make a WH question, we put the WH word in front of did and remove the answer from the question. So the WH word question would be, what did Anne make for her family last night? Now, we need to talk about a special verb, and that's the verb used to. You always have to have the used and the infinitive to plus the base verb. Now, we use this to talk about a past habit or a situation. For example, he used to drink milk when he was a child. This means that he's an adult now and he does not drink milk. Or, we used to visit grandmother every day. Well, we don't visit grandmother anymore, so we say we used to. How about they used to live in Dallas? This means that now they do not live in Dallas any longer. Here is a question. Did your teacher, now here you've got choices. You can use to or used to. Both of them are correct. And the negative, we can also use or used. The easiest way, though, is just always use USED. Now, what I'd like for you to do as part of your homework is write 3 answers for each question. Use used to in each answer. So first, you are an adult now. What did you used to do when you were a child that you don't do now? Write 3 answers for this question. And look at the last one. You are living in the United States. What did you used to do in your country that you don't do now? And that's where we're going to stop for today. We'll talk about past continuous or past progressive and time clauses at another time. Thank you for listening.